Okay, today's lesson is about simplifying ratios. How do we simplify our ratios? From previous lessons, you have already seen that we can have two ratios. They are exactly the same, and we call that equivalent ratios. So knowing how to simplify ratios is very important skills later on. So how do we simplify it? A ratio is simplified by dividing, this is very important, all numbers in the ratio by their highest common factor. Yes, very similar to like simplifying fractions. Well, to be honest, ratio and fractions, they're related to each other. So the way you do it with fraction, you can do the same thing with ratios. All right, so we'll start with some examples. Example 1. How do we simplify this? 7 over 21. Alright, so the way to do it, it's same thing like what we did before. We need to simplify it using the highest common factor. So that just means we need to find out what is the highest common factor between 7 and 12. Well, luckily the highest common factor is equal to 7. So we're going to divide both numbers by 7. So therefore you are going to get 1 to 3. So 7 to 21 is equal to 1 to 3. All right, okay. So the next question, we have 450 to 200. Now, what do we do if we have a larger number? Previously, with fractions, what I suggest everyone to do is if you can find the highest common factor, that would be great. But sometimes with a large number, it's not that easy to find the highest common factor. Right, so I think you can actually break down into two steps to do it. They all have a zeros at the end, so what you can do is divide by 10 on both sides, then you're going to get 45 to 20. Now you can see it's much easier to simplify it. All right, so to simplify this ratio, the highest common factor is equal to 5. Then you can divide it by 5, so the answer is equal to 9 to 4. All right, so you can always do that, separate steps to do the question. You don't always, find the highest common factor straight away. Sometimes you just have to do a few more steps, all right? A couple of more steps to find the highest common factor, or you just simplify it to, two numbers that is simple enough for you to find the highest common factor. All right, so let's just practice another one, like this example, 90 to 75. All right. How about this one here? They all end up with either 0 or 5, so that means I can divide both numbers by 5. All right, and 90 divided by 5 is 16. And 75 divided by 5 is 15. Okay, so we've got 16 and 15. Is that 16? 90 divided by 5. Let's try, okay. So I think I made a mistake. Yes, 18. Yes. So that's 18. Oops, sorry. So 18 to 15. Now, can we further simplify this? I'm pretty sure you can, because again, between 18 and 15, the highest common factor is equal to 3. So then we divide everything by 3, then you will get 6 to 5. All right, so that's the point I want to make. Instead of dividing 15 straight away, because the highest common factor is 15, but sometimes it's not that easy to know the highest common factor is equal to 15. What we can do is we can divide it by 5 first, because we know it's equal to 5 and 0 at the end. Then we divide it by 3 after we know the answer we get is 18 and 15. All right, so that's an example 1, pretty easy. Now, what happens if we have ratios in terms of fractions? All right, like this, 3 over 8 to 1 over 4. This is still simplifying. How do we do questions if it's a fraction? All right, with fractions, a couple of ways you can do it, okay? I just want to introduce you a few ways I will use to simplify fractions, with ratios. At least I can think about 3 different ways, all right? So you can think, which method is easier for you to do. The first method I would like to do is to make the same denominator, okay? All right, if you make the same denominator, then you can simplify the numerator. So that's what you do. All right, so you multiply both the top and the bottom by 2, and that gives you 3 over 8 as the first number, and 2 over 8 as the second number. Then when you simplify that, it would just be 3 to 2 because the denominator are equal to each other, so we're just comparing the numerator. Alright? So that's how you do it, how using the first method. For the second method, I will call that cross multiplication. Alright, cross multiplication. Using this method here, you can actually find, you can simplify the ratios quite easily as well. So let's try that. What's wrong? Right, so what is cross multiplication? Well, basically you just simply times those around, okay? So times this. So 3 times by 4 is equal to 12. You just write down 12. And then 8 times by 1. So you do 3 times by 4 first. And you do 8 times by 1 later. Alright, so 8 times by 1 is equal to 8. Once you finish that, you simplify it. Alright, so that gives you divided by 4 and divide the highest common factor, which is equal to 4. So that gives you 3 to 2. Okay, so that's another way you can do it. I do have another way, the third method for you to simplify this. It's actually using fraction division. Now, 3 over 8 to 1 over 4. Usually what you can do is that colon symbol, you can turn that into division, okay? It's like a fraction. So if you turn that into division, that becomes 3 over 8 divided by 1 over 4, which is equal to 3 over 8 times by 4 over 1. And if you simplify that, okay, if you simplify this, so that becomes 1 and that becomes 2. The answer you get at the end is 3 over 2, which now you just turn that 3 over 2 back into a fraction, which is 3 to 2. So as you can see here, 3 different ways to simplify ratios with, fractions. It's up to you which way you like to do, but remember, any of the method here works. All right, just remember how to simplify it properly. Make sure your final answer is in the simplest form. All right, now the last type of question is where they provide you ratios with different units, and you need to know how to simplify it. So this is based on the unit conversions. So for example, the first one is 12 millimeters to 3 centimeters. The idea here is doesn't matter if you want to change millimeters to centimeters or if you want to change centimeters to millimeters. It doesn't matter. All right. What I usually do is try to do something that you sort of don't create a decimal number at the end. Okay. So I like to change centimeters to millimeters. So that gives you 12 millimeters to 30 millimeters. All right. So now you can write down 12 to 30, and then you can start to simplify it. All right. So it should be quite easy after you change the correct unit. So that gives you into 2 to 5. All right, now what happens if I don't want to change into millimeters? What happens if I want to change in centimeters? Can I still do that? The answer is yes, you can still do it. You get like 1.2 centimeters to 3 centimeters, which gives you 1.2 to 3. Now, as you can see, that creates a problem. The problem here is it's not that easy to simplify ratios with decimal numbers. So what you need to do is you times everything by 10. So that turn back into 12 and 30. And then simplify it. Sorry. Alright, so that you simplify into 2 to 5. And that way you can, further simplify it into the correct number. So I hope, I suggest you to change into a larger number instead of a smaller number, because once you get a decimal numbers, you still have to change this decimal number back into a larger number without decimal points. Alright. Let's try another one. What about 20 minutes to 2 hours? All right, again, I prefer to change 2 hours to minutes, but you can change minutes to hours if you want. So that becomes 20 minutes to 2 hours. All right, we know that 60 minutes is in 1 hour, so times by 60, that gives you 120 minutes. All right, so then that gives you 20 to 120, and you can simplify it by dividing, dividing 20 both sides. So you get 1 to 6, and that becomes the ratio. Okay, so 20 minutes to 2 hours is equivalent to 1 to 6. All right. So that's it. Should be quite easy as long as you know how to change a unit and be able to find the highest common factor to simplified ratios. Remember, simplifying ratios is very similar to simplifying fractions. The idea is very, very similar to each other. The only difference this time is we're writing not in terms of fraction, but writing in terms of ratios. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Thank you.